Sangonani Dumelang, good evening and welcome to episode 187 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zama Khumalo. It's a Friday edition of the Private Property Podcast. We're so happy to have you join us this evening. If it's the first time that you're tuning in, where have you been? You've definitely missed out on some great content when it comes to your home ownership journey. So do make sure that you go back to our gallery on Facebook as well as our YouTube page to catch up on all the exciting episodes that we've brought on your screens. And of course, to all our regular viewers, welcome back. It's always so great to have you with us. They're from the Top Fan gang members. And to those who watch but don't always, ask questions, but they find the episodes informative. They want to learn, and they're certainly learning quite a lot about property ownership, managing your property, and also making sure that you put your best foot forward when making some of those property decisions. Well, you do know that we love hearing from you, so do show us some love down here below, whether it's those green hearts or let us know that you are watching. We definitely love hearing from you. And one of the things that we love doing, of course, is sharing other great shows that we get to bring on your screens. I am talking about the First Time Home Buyers Show with Esty Clarkson. That's on your screens every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. And that's where she takes you through the ins and outs of buying that first property and talks to people who've walked that journey. You know how I love saying so many people have made mistakes so that we don't have to make them. And that's one of the shows that helps you not make mistakes that are very likely going to cost you time and money when it comes to buying that first property. And another show that's got me very excited because I do have green fingers is the Farming Podcast with Umbali Noko that comes to your screens every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. And if you also have agricultural ambitions, it doesn't matter whether you're talking crop farming, cattle farming, or perhaps looking at how you can enter the agricultural value chain, perhaps through the use of tech, then that is the podcast for you. And over the weekend, certainly as we kickstart this weekend, we never leave you alone. Chad brings you the Home Shoppers Show, where he gets to profile some of the best estates and complexes that the country has on offer. So we definitely have a huge bouquet or a huge buffet rather of content that we bring to your screens here on the Private Property Podcast, as well as, of course, the other private property shows across our social media platforms. We do hope that you enjoy consuming all the content. And of course, do let us know if there are more shows that you want us to bring to your screens. Now, one of the things that we're also doing as we kickstarted 2021, as we always do, is running our first 2021 competition, and that is the Sherlock Holmes competition. Now, the Sherlock Holmes competition really is about being a detective and making sure that you follow where the riddle leads you. And all you have to do is go to our social media platforms as well as our website on www.privateproperty.co.za and let us know where the riddle takes you. And if you do get chosen as the lucky winner for the week, then you get to walk away with a 5,000 Rand voucher that you can spend with one of our partners. So that's one of the things that you can look forward to. And later on in the show, I'll actually be sharing who the lucky winner is for this week. We did share that second riddle earlier on in the week, so we will be unveiling who the lucky winner is this week. And it really is that easy to walk away with money here on Private Property. So do make sure that you follow the prompts, you follow the riddle, but you also go to our website and our social media pages and see where it goes. I've seen a lot of the different viewers at home kind of trying to decipher where the riddle leads to, and I'm loving the teamwork that's going into it. So do certainly keep that coming. Now, one of the things that we're exploring this evening, and I'm quite excited about it, the reality is that we're going to, one of the things that we're certainly picking up is a lot of current homeowners are potentially going to be selling their properties, whether they want to, downscale because of the economic effects of COVID-19, or some of them may want to upscale because they think, look, the historically low interest rates means I can now afford just, a bigger property. So I want to take advantage of it right now. What it does though mean is that we're going to be seeing a lot of sellers, and a lot of sellers who probably don't quite know how to navigate, putting your property up on the market, how you should be choosing your agent, what are some of the questions you should be asking an agent before you even meet up with them. And I know this anxiety because I think oftentimes we talk a lot about buying and give various tips and almost working through what happens when you buy, but we don't always look at the sell side, which is equally important because, of course, some of us are going to be selling our respective properties. And that's why this evening we're looking at exploring the benefits of signing an exclusive mandate when you are selling your home. And I am joined by Darrel Lewis, who's the MD of Willows Realty. Darrel, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Darrel, before we even go to the ins and outs, what you should be doing, and, let's perhaps start with what exactly is an exclusive mandate. When we talk about signing an exclusive mandate when you're selling your property, what exactly do we mean?
Okay, so mandates, you get quite a few different types of mandates, but I think the main confusion comes in between an exclusive mandate and a sole mandate. A sole mandate basically means that you, as the owner and the agency that you appoint, both have the right to sell a property. Whereas an exclusive mandate means that you give that responsibility to an agency or an agent that you trust, and they have the exclusive right to sell that property for a period of time.
And that's
so it's not indefinite.
And perhaps to look at, even the time frame, what should help you determine how long it should be. But before we get there, Darrel, what are some of the reasons why somebody would opt for example, an exclusive mandate versus a sole mandate when they're selling their property?
I believe that an exclusive mandate is effectively a partnership. So giving a person, you trust a doctor, you go into a partnership when you're sick, and you allow him to do certain things to fix you. It's no different to an estate agent who has the experience, who has convinced you that they have your best interests at heart, and you allowing them to use their money in terms of marketing, in terms of their experience, to then work on your behalf to get you the best price. Remember, you as the seller are effectively the client.
And I think that's probably a perspective that so many sellers typically don't even think about, especially because some people are maybe rushed to sell that property, that they don't see themselves as a client, and your estate agent is providing a service. And you should probably do the same kind of, we'll say, due diligence when you trying to, for example, and I like the example of a doctor. So before you try out a doctor, you typically ask friends or family if they've used that particular doctor, or you ask for referrals. Sometimes maybe you look them up online to just get a sense of, what they're all about. And often that's not, or certainly something that I've seen is that sellers don't sometimes go through that path, right? That they don't almost take it as, what are some of the ways that I can best check that this is the best person to sell my property, given where it is, and perhaps even given the type of clientele that is likely to buy my particular property, and which can be which can be quite unfortunate, because it essentially means that you're going to give this exclusive mandate, potentially lose time. A lot of the times as buyers, we see when properties are online, and the moment you see it online for too long, the price slowly starts getting reduced, and then you see another agent is on, you start questioning whether there's something wrong with that particular property. But before we get to that, because I definitely want us to talk a little bit about that later on, perhaps, share with our viewers, Darrel, that in the event where they then want to enter in this partnership, and I love the fact that you use those words, that it's a partnership when you do an exclusive mandate, how should they be going about, choosing the agent or agency that they'll be walking that journey with, and what kind of sort of questions should they be asking the agent or agency to help them determine that this is actually the right person that I should be partnering with to sell this property?
I would say that you need to interview the agent. And why would you choose one agent over another?
Mm.
And you want to look at track record, you want to look at integrity, you want to look at prices, you want to look at how past relationships, if you will, references. We all trust our friends. So when you need a plumber, invariably in the old days you went to Yellow Pages. Now you phone your friend and say, well, who fixed your bathroom? And you get 3 or 4 of those people saying, oh no, this guy did it or that guy did it. Okay. And you too feel more comfortable to phone him. In this sort of scenario, I would say that you got to look at and say to an agent, I continuously will say, this is what I've done. This is how I've performed. We sell by number. Remember, advertising property, it doesn't matter. I am not the biggest estate agent in Gauteng, not by any stretch of the imagination. Okay. But my conversion rate is a lot better than really big agencies, okay? Because we sell by number. And we understand that we have to sometimes give our sellers good information, but emotionally bad. Because, emotion doesn't have a value. And when people think they have a beautiful home, and it might not be what the market is looking for. And you can prove it, by the numbers. You can look at what was selling in an area, at what rand per square meter. If the average in an area is selling for 5,000 rand a square meter, and you asking for 9, how are you going to convince somebody that you are 4,000 rand a square meter more worth? You're not. It's not possible, Zama. You would have to be quadruple the house to get double the value in a specific area.
Yeah.
And then you've overcapitalized, and we all know where that goes.
Yeah, and Darrel, actually I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I'm seeing, quite a lot of that, and we were talking a little bit about it off air, that one of the things that I've noticed, if you almost track from, in the early days of lockdown, and as the property sector slowly started opening up, and even the rest of the country slowly started opening up, and you're looking at, let's say, certain properties in certain areas, their price point, and how, as the interest rates were going down, you saw that some of the properties, their pricing would go up, right? And I can only assume that it's because perhaps the seller, or maybe even the agent, but let's make it a seller's thing as opposed to an agent's, we'll say, mistake, that they think, okay, now because interest rates are going lower and lower, and there's this buzz around low interest rates and getting your foot into the property door, it means that more people are looking for property, and therefore they will pay this high price. But as we're saying off air, the reality though is we have a lot of stock on the market, and as sellers and as buyers, we're certainly spoiled for choice. So there's a part of me that is looking at some of the property prices, and looking at especially the ones that are quite high. I'm even looking at commercial buildings that are already residential buildings, the selling price point for a lot of the resi buildings And even when you look at it per square meter, the rand per square meter, or you're even looking at it as, let's say it's 30 units and there's a sectional title that's been open, and you were to divide their asking price by 30, you'd find that the per unit price point is that's not the going rate for individual units in the area. So there's this, like, I'll say, price mismatch that I'm picking up right now, certainly from what is being advertised. And the unfortunate consequence of something like that is so much stock is just staying on the market. I mean, there are certain buildings and properties that I've been monitoring from as early as, let's say, March, April, and then the prices went up, and some even longer than that, right? And I mean, there's a particular building where the price point went up 3 million during lockdown. It's still on the market. They just keep changing agents all the time. And I wonder, Darrel, if the disconnect is because the seller is just adamant that, look, I think I can get this amount, this is what I want, or is it an agent who's trying to be opportunistic, or is an agent just not doing their thorough research? Because I know that agents are supposed to, and you were saying this, that you sell by the number. So as agents, you have the information around, what the selling price point is, even what gets registered in the deeds office. So never mind what we see on your private property, but you have the data of this is actually what gets registered. So I'm very curious with where the disconnect is, Darrel, because you deal with the clients, right? Maybe it's us as clients who just like, I want more money and I'm not budging. Or perhaps it's also the other side.
Well, okay, so the agent goes in there and says, I need to get an exclusive mandate. So realistically, I'm not going to explain to the seller because I don't want to upset him, and I don't want to be informative or helpful. I'm just going to agree that if he says 6 million, I'm going to say 5.9. But what I'll do is then I'll say to him, that price point's quite a high price point. There's not many buyers in that price bracket. So I think I need a 12-month mandate. So I will drive the price down while I've got the mandate for that period of time, because I know he's going to be put under financial pressure because he's not going to get offers from month number one. He's going to start getting silly offers, cheeky offers, and then I will use the cheeky offers, which he's now not accepted, to say, you see, the market has spoken, okay? I think we really, at month number 10, really need to accept 4.5. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, that's a horrible way of looking at it. Yeah. But if you look at the history of transactions, it has been done since the beginning of time, especially where people or sellers think that if I get agents to compete as opposed to buyers competing. Now, there's a big difference, okay? Agents competing as opposed to buyers competing, I am going to get the best price. No, sir. You're very wrong. You're going to get the worst price.
And Darrel, perhaps, take us through the difference between agents competing versus buyers competing, because I know we spoke briefly about this offline, but for our viewers at home, what is then that difference? Because as you're saying that you're not necessarily going to win as the seller. So what is that difference between the agents being the one who are competing versus the buyers being the ones who are competing?
So if you are in a smallish area and an agent is predominant in that area, the best way to drive against that predominant agent is to have 3 or 4 agents who are undermining price. So when a person's trying to maintain an integrity of a particular area, you would end up in a fight against 5 or 6 other agents. What's happening here in these sort of scenarios is that, oh, no, you're never going to sell at that price. You need to drop your price, okay, because 6 agents need to eat. It's not going to be that way. What happens is that there's only so many buyers in an area. We're never, ever turning around and saying, listen, I'm going to move to Edenvale as opposed to the West End of Joburg. Okay? There's 1,000 reasons why a person needs to be in a specific area. So when I say specific area, there might be 3 or 4 suburbs that they would choose from. Okay? But it's whether they're close to working in Sandton or close to a school where their children need to be, or a multitude of these things, and where's the best place that we can place ourselves. So if there's, say, 300 homes in, let's choose Rudeport, for instance, okay, and there are 100 buyers and there's 50 properties for sale, there's going to be competition. It's got nothing to do with the number of agents in that area, okay? There's still only that amount of property for sale, and there's only that amount of buyers. So you wanting the agents to compete, saying they have nothing to sell. You've got to sell, okay? All they can do is vet the buyers and find out the best buyer who can get as close to your selling price as you need to be. But having to do that, you as the seller need to be aware of what that selling price is going to be based on historical data, trends in the marketplace, time on the market. There's a lot of things. It's not just a case of saying 5 properties, X number of squares, rand per square meter, bam, we've got a number. It doesn't work like that. It means that, has it been upgraded? There's value to that. Is it downgraded? Okay, because taste. Zama hates laminate flooring. Darrel loves that laminate flooring. When we walk into a house, that has got different value for us, But it might be Zama the seller and Darrel the buyer. So straight away, there's a conflict of what it's worth. Yes? So I think I'm sort of answering your question in a roundabout way, but for the simple reason that there's 3 or 4 points that it is critical as to why the seller needs to be as educated as the buyer. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
And it's such an important thing, Darrel, because I get quite worked up when I look at the various price points and just the trend that I'm picking up on the listing sites, right? And obviously, I'm very interested in seeing where that behavior is going to go this year. I mean, I was looking at the 2020 data. Some of it wasn't particularly that interesting. I know that towards the tail end of the year, I think it was like late in Q3 and early Q4, we did see that a lot of the properties in I think it was like the 450 to 1.5 billion rand mark were the ones that were selling the most, and with some selling slightly higher than pre-COVID figures. And except now I'm finding that the sellers or the agents, or rather the listing price, it keeps going higher and higher and higher. And I'm definitely curious to see at which point the parties are going to be able to say, listen, you actually can't outprice it so much that it go like the price increases, for example, by 20%, because banks are also not going to come to the party, right? And last year we saw a lot of home loans being secured by a lot of buyers, a lot of 100% home loans being secured by first-time home buyers. But of course, banks also run their own numbers. They do their own valuations. They keep up with the trends. So you don't want to price it so far up that people then essentially get rejected for a home loan for a specific property, and not because they're a bad customer or they don't have a good credit score. So I think as a seller, it's also just important not to shoot yourself in the foot. and really almost think about how seriously do you want to sell? Because I think that's one of the other things. And I remember Darrel, one of my guests last year was saying, in as much as we keep saying it's a buyer's market, it's also a serious seller's market. So if you do your research and you're informed and you work with your estate agent and you price your property well, it will sell, and it will sell fairly quickly. And I want to go to some of the questions and comments that our viewers at home have sent. We are, of course, looking at the benefits of an exclusive mandate when you're selling your home, really exploring the sell side. I mean, we talk a lot about buying a property, but so many of us need more info to better equip us when we do decide to sell. Because we may perhaps want to sell our current properties. Maybe you want a bigger place, maybe you want a smaller place. Perhaps you realize, look, I spent 800,000 on this property. I actually want to be able to buy 2 properties for that same affordability. So rather just offload this one property so I can open up a bit of affordability. And that's something that I'm seeing a lot of people who are looking to go into property investment are now thinking through that. Why should I have this one property for $1 million? Let me sell it. Then I've opened up that affordability and can buy more than one property. To go to your questions and comments, I've got a comment here from Facebook, Uste Vinjwa, saying one homeowner guaranteed me that his house would sell in a blink because of its features, overpriced it, and to cut the long story short, he is still staying there 2 years later. And Darrel, this is exactly what we were talking about. So many properties are staying on the market for an extended period of time. I've seen properties that have been on the market for the past 3 years. And part of me is like, how are you even managing as an owner when you are just not coming to the party and setting the right price point? Another comment here from one of our top fan members, who is Sami Mahlatsa on Facebook. He's saying, for investment purposes, one needs to check or do proper research before buying, as now tenants are struggling with monthly payments. This pandemic has caused us a bit more than what people are thinking. And that's a very crucial one. I think part of the research is, using resources like TPN, looking at where the high vacancies are. I mean, when we were talking to Michelle Dickens, the MD of TPN Credit Bureau, one of the very surprising things was the vacancy rate in Soweto and how last year it stayed at 18%, even as we were deep in lockdown and things slowly started opening up. I would have expected that the vacancy rate in Soweto would have gone far higher than it was. But one of the things, I guess, is the landlords were able to adapt to where the market is and have a conversation with their tenants so that they're still essentially able to retain them. So I think as a property investor, or certainly as a landlord, you need to be able to be adaptive like that when you're faced with a crisis like this. And then we've got a question here from Facebook. It's coming from Urulani the Hotoli, who asks, when is the best time of the year to sell a house?
There is no best time of the year to sell a house. Okay. The best time to sell a house is when the house is priced correctly.
I like that, Darrel, because I think we tend to hear a lot from maybe even estate agents, or we'll say through the rumor mill that, if you sell, let's say in October, or if you list in October, you would have closed before, Christmas, or if you list at this time of year, maybe let's say in February. So once people have recovered from all their January woes and you're now also talking about property goals, then maybe people might be buying more. So it's interesting to note that, look, when it's priced right, that's the right time. One thing that I'd probably add, Darrel, before I wrap up with you.
The best time to move in,
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'll definitely say to people who are going to consider selling this year is, as the seller, prepare yourself for the sale. I mean, we often talk about how the buyer must be prepared. So you work on your credit score, you're saving up for your deposit, and all these other things that you would have been doing sort of months prior to finally, let's say, signing that offer to purchase. As the seller, also prepare yourself. So things like make sure you're paying your levies and your rates. Of course, you don't want to be behind on something like that. It could delay the home selling process quite significantly. You want to also have budgeted for your bond cancellation attorney in the event where your property is bonded. So you should also be ready for the admin that comes with it. Perhaps it's slightly less than the buyer, but you should be aware that this is what's coming. Are you financially ready for it? And as far as your admin is concerned, are you also ready for it? Whether it's, as Darrel was saying, interviewing the different estate agents first, finding out how you can enter into this partnership with them. But Darrel, before I let you go, any final tips for our viewers at home who are going to be considering selling this year that they need to keep top of mind, especially when they want to decide whether to do a sole mandate or an exclusive mandate?
Well, Zama, with your permission, I've always said that I'm more than willing to help any buyer or seller go through the process. We are happy to talk the numbers, whether it's buying from us or you understanding the process, because it serves us long term. So I would say to you, go out there, go to the show days, see what properties in areas in your area, what people are selling properties for, and then ask people, okay, and say, what is the actual selling price? So remember, we have a marketing price, and everybody's about, what, the house down the road was asking 3 million rand. But when you find out from Lightstone, or you go and have a look at with the wind deed, you find out that the actual selling price was 2.5. So you haven't done the seller any favors, as an agent by doing that sort of marketing. So I would say to you, be wary of actual selling price versus marketing price.
And that's such an important one to note. I'm going to ask Viola to just keep that comment up on the screen. We see I've got a comment here. I think it came through from one of our viewers on Facebook. It came through from Fahara, who says, "Thank you, David and Zama, for this topic. I gave my agent a sole mandate about 2 months now, and I'm learning more from private property." It's only a pleasure, Fahara, and I think it is one of those things where we say there's always so much to learn, whether you're buying, whether you're renting, whether you're about to, sell your property. And we want to be equipped with the best tools and the best knowledge to help us make the right decisions, and not, months later, regret that we didn't know something or we didn't ask certain questions. And I think that's one of the big things with this property and all the other shows across private property. Now, Darrel, we are going to leave it there this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we're probably going to have you again this year. Thank you so much for being with us.
Always lovely chatting to you. Thank you very much for having me.
And that is Darrel Lewis, who is the AP at Willows Realty. And we have been looking at exploring the benefits of signing an exclusive mandate when you're selling your home. And I do wish all of you who are going to be selling your home to see all the best on this journey. I know it can probably be slightly daunting, and you want to make sure that you get equipped with all the right research and also the right tools to help you navigate selling your property. It can be one of those very daunting things, and also a bit emotional, especially if it was a place you were living at and maybe it had all these sentimental, memories that you had in the place. But do remember that you're making an informed decision, and tuning into the Private Property Podcast every day certainly does help you in making the best decision and knowing what to ask the professionals when you do interact with them. Well, before I sign off this evening, it is that time of the evening where we're going to be giving away that 5,000 Rand voucher to this week's winner of the Sherlock Holmes competition. And I'm going to, slowly ask my colleague. I know that this is a very exciting one. I'm very excited. I love giving away money. You all know how much I love giving away, prizes, whether it's on social media or certainly here on the show. And the winner for for this week. So this is week 2. So the winner for week 2 of the Sherlock Holmes competition, and let's have a drum roll. And of course, the lucky winner gets to walk away with that 5,000 Rand voucher. And that winner is Lindy Branthwaite. And Lindy, she gets to walk away with that 5,000 Rand voucher that she can spend with our partners. Well, congratulations, Lindy. Do slide into our DMs and the team will get your details so that we can make sure that you get your prize. And all you have to do if you want to be one of the winners is to make sure that you follow the riddle of our Sherlock Holmes competition. Let me see if the third riddle is ready yet. I know we usually put it up on our social media on Monday. Let's see if it is ready for you to get that sneak peek of what it is. Maybe you can think about it over the weekend and already start, slowly trying to see where the riddle leads you. And of course, the best way you can do that is by going on our website, www.privateproperty.co.za. I see it's not quite ready yet, so you will have to watch out on our social media platforms in order to find what the riddle is going to be for week 3. So do get yourself ready to crack what that riddle is. We'll be posting it up on Monday, bright and early. Well, that's it from me, Zama and the rest of the Private Property Podcast team. It has been a pleasure to be with you. Let's stay in touch on social media. I'm at Zamantungwa_K. And as usual, hoping you're going to have a great weekend, staying home and staying safe.
Hi, I'm Clinton Banfield. Our family and I live in Cape Town on the Western Seaboard. To be able to wake up and take in the scenery every day is an absolute pleasure. We probably have the best views of Table Mountain. There's some really amazing suburbs in our neighborhood. There's Milnerton, which is a central hub close to the city. There's some beautiful homes situated along the canal, which give you a breathtaking view of Table Mountain. A little bit further along the canal, you'll find Milnerton Golf Club, which is a great place to unwind with your mates. Then we have Blouberg, which is world-renowned for its beaches, where you'll often see kite surfers taking full advantage of the wind. To top it off, there's a great variety of family restaurants in the area, like Blue Peter, where people love to meet. The Bayside Mall is a landmark in Tableview, giving you an all-round retail experience in a relaxed and convenient environment. As a family, we've chosen to live in Atlantic Beach Golf Estate in Melkbosstrand. Our suburb is so chilled, it really gives you this constant holiday feel. We've lived here for 2 years and we've really enjoyed the laid-back lifestyle, and this is our neighborhood.